Morning Joe. After Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough did this pilgrimage down to Mar-a-Lago to reopen lines of communication and to restart conversations with Donald Trump, they are not handling this well. So let me kind of rewind a little bit and remind you what happened.
All right, folks, this is one of only a few times you guys are going to see me agree with David Pakman. Morning Joe just can't seem to recover from their embarrassing pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago. And in this clip, David Pakman is breaking it all down, and let me tell you, it's not pretty. And for once, which this is going to be extremely rare, I completely agree with David Pakman in the points that he makes within this video. So let's get into this clip, break it down, give you my opinion as well, and show you something you guys have never seen, which is me agreeing with David Pakman. So let's get into it.
After spending a whole bunch of Joe Biden's presidency rightly criticizing Donald Trump, the hosts of Morning Joe on MSNBC went down to Mar-a-Lago after Trump became president-elect, and they didn't do an interview. They basically just went down to glad hand and to get buddy-buddy with Donald Trump. They want to reopen lines of communication. Their audience, to a great degree, saw it for what it was. Good for them. They saw it as the epitome of access journalism, trying to figure out a way to just get access to power. And they absolutely excoriated Mika and Joe. Ratings are down dramatically. Mika and Joe had to turn comments off on a bunch of their stories online because they were getting absolutely destroyed.
This is the funniest part, right? Morning Joe and these same people have spent years branding Trump as a fascist, and now they're smooching it like it's a country club reunion. It's like watching someone publicly roast their ex only to show up at their house with a casserole. And they are absolutely getting burned for it, having to even turn off their comments, which is like taping over a broken window. You're not fooling anybody. And thankfully, which I'm glad that people see it, their audience isn't buying it. Honestly, who can blame them? Joe and Mika went from defenders of democracy to access journalists faster than you can even say Mar-a-Lago, which is hilarious.
So now they've been on a sort of, not an apology tour, more of a justification tour for several weeks, where they are insisting that it was all great that they went down there. And here is Joe Scarborough getting agitated as Mika Brzezinski looks on. He sort of attempts to defend their entire thing.
Two things. You can do two things at the same time. You can say he had fascist rhetoric and still go in and talk to him.
Yeah.
You know why I do that? To get the read of the man. You know why I went in and talked to Macron? To get the read of the man at a crucial time in EU funding and NATO funding. Do you know why
You realize he's yelling at his own audience here.
I went to leaders in the Middle East who were angry at the United States, and I sat there and I listened to them attacking me personally for 45 minutes because of U.S. policy? You know why I do that?
Joe is out here flexing about being yelled at like that somehow makes him a hero. Listen, listening to people criticize you doesn't automatically make you a martyr. It makes you a sponge for abuse. Congrats, I guess, because that's the only thing that I see from this, and I think most do as well.
To get the read of the leader, to get the read of where the country's going. So I can come back here and talk to you and let you
He's sounding unhinged.
know what the hell is going on.
With context and
give
insight.
you context, insight, and background. You know everybody we have on the show that's a reporter? It's what they do every day. They speak on background.
I really don't know how people watch this. And there are people I respect, and supposedly, like, even Biden likes having Morning Joe on in the morning. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And he's yelling at his audience. Now, my issue with the Mar-a-Lago pilgrimage wasn't that they went. It wasn't that they told us about it on the show. It was the way it was presented. It was the way that they normalized a guy who wants to be an authoritarian, autocrat, strongman, borderline dictator for a day, call it what you want, plans to weaponize the DOJ against his perceived enemies. And I would have been would I have been happier? I would have found it far more honest if Joe and Mika had instead said, this guy, as we've been telling you, is planning to become an unhinged autocrat. We don't want to be in his crosshairs. So we went down there to tell him, sir, we're going to cover you honestly. I don't even know if that gets him out of trouble, but it would have been much more honest than this whole thing where all of a sudden he's not a threat to democracy. All of a sudden he's not. And, you know, Joe keeps insisting, no, we can still say this, that, the other thing. I don't deny for a second that you can honestly cover someone that you personally know, and particularly meet through the course of doing your job. But the entire context of this meeting down there of we want to reopen communication with the guy who's going to be the leader. You understand that you're talking like he's a normal person with normal plans to be a normal president, when this is a red alert moment. He's planning fabricated crises to justify emergency powers, deportation camps. You want to reopen lines of communication.
Now, David goes into his usual attacking Trump and, making it sound like the end of the world type of scenario. But he does make a valid point, which is with Morning Joe, they're treating Trump like he's just another politician when, according to their own narrative, he's the end all be all of the world type of threat. If you genuinely think he's a dictator in waiting, why on earth are you trying to get on his good side? It's like saying, I think the wolf is dangerous, but let's invite him over for dinner. They just want to make sure that their ratings are good and they have something to cover for the future. And I guess if this is the way to do it, then this is the way to do it for them.
Now, here's the one thing I will say, sort of in potential defense of Joe and Mika. If the whole thing is merely a ruse to get access to Trump, with the plan of breaking, leaking, whistleblowing, reporting, the absolute worst of the worst that he plans to do, then it seems to me it would be more justified than what it appears to be. But based on everything I know about Joe and Mika, everything they've said, everything about how he's reacted, it's seeming to me like this is the absolute epitome of access journalism.
Once again, very much agree with this point that David makes, which is Joe and Mika want us to believe that their motives are pure, but all we see is opportunism. If you're going to sell out, at least own it. The world, the audience, your audience isn't stupid. They know a PR stunt when they see it, and that's evidently why you're getting the backlash that you are. You'd think for people who spend their entire livelihood covering and working the news, they'd understand that. So there you have it, folks. One of the only few times you guys will ever see me agreeing with David Pakman, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts of what you think. Is this peak hypocrisy, or does Morning Joe actually believe their own excuses? Drop a comment down below letting me know your thoughts. Also, be sure to give us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.